Oh, Rocky's going to sharpen his claws on the pallet there. That's a good thing for it. Yes, that's a good place to do that, Rocky. It is. It's an excellent place to do it. Oh, there he goes. He says, no pictures, please. This damn paparazzi. These damn paparazzi, eh? Now that I'm YouTube famous, I've got these damn paparazzi coming, taking video and pictures of me all the time. Eh? You might be the most famous cat on YouTube. I don't know for certain, but you might be. Yeah. Hey? It's entirely possible, Rocky. My goodness. Hey, I think you're definitely the most loved cat on YouTube. Yes, and rightly so, too. There he goes. He says, this is enough. I'm starting to blush. I gotta go inside. Anyway, he says, you're making me blush, man. There we go. I've got the back of the camper all skirted in with the tarp material, all weighted down with bricks. I do. It goes all the way around here, right around to here. And I've recharged the battery. I've recharged my battery here for my power driver. So everything's ready to go. It is. Yeah. Rocky's wet food came in from Amazon, his Friskies. So that's good. Nice man came and left it here. And I've got some dog repellent coming tomorrow. I like to carry it's actually technically illegal in Canada. I guess I'm confessing to a crime here. But I carry dog repellent oftentimes with me, especially when I'm back here. But even like when I'm in town, I do, because every so often, it hasn't happened in a while, but over the years I've run into crazy people. And I'm just not up for fighting anymore. Now, if I ever do spray a person with it, that's automatically 5 years in the penitentiary in Canada. So there is that. If the police find out, that's what'll happen. But if I'm able just to hose the asshole down if somebody comes at me and get away and not be identified, if that actually does happen, which I suppose is a pipe dream these days with all the cameras and everything, then I might just get out of taking a beating and not have to go to prison and not have to end up killing somebody or maiming them with another kind of a weapon or whatever, pick up something big and heavy and smash them with it and maybe kill them. The pepper spray is going to make them miserable, but it's probably not going to kill them. So there is that. And even if I do get caught, 5 years is better than 25 years. At my age, 25 years is a life sentence. Even 5 years might be. 25 definitely is. Anyway, that's it. So yeah, I've calculated all the pluses and minuses and all the risks and benefits, and I've come to the conclusion that I'm better off carrying the stuff than not carrying it. Especially with the shape I'm in now, my teeth are falling out. I know I've got bone loss all throughout my body because of the constant urinary tract infections from my atrophied bladder and my bad prostate gland that I've had since I was a teenager. And so I guess I have a form of osteoporosis at this point. I know that was confirmed by a doctor years ago. So, a punch to the mouth could break my jaw or something. And I'm not allowed to go to the hospital. So it's a pretty risky thing for me to get into a fight with another man, So, like I say, I will carry my dog repellent, and I've got a replacement canister of it coming tomorrow because I had to use most of this one on on 2 raccoons back a while ago. So I like to have a full canister on hand in my pocket at all times. You know, this might not even spray anymore. There's some in it, but who's to say there's any propellant left in it? I don't want to get caught off guard anyway if I end up in a bad situation with another man on the street. I think my paranoia goes back to my days in Perth when I was getting into fistfights on the street all the time and stuff, getting jumped. But still, I'm aware that it could happen. I developed all kinds of little tricks, you know, like when I'm downtown, I keep an eye on the reflections in the glass of the store windows. If somebody's coming up behind me quickly, I'll see them because I'll see the movement in the glass, basically. I'll see them moving. And the glass actually acts like a mirror, especially where you get a store door that's set in and you get that glass that goes in this way at an angle. And when you're walking toward it, it's just like a mirror. And I can see if anybody's coming up behind me in a hurry and stuff. And I have all kinds of little tricks like that I use. But I had to develop that ability because I was being physically attacked every week. You know, I was knocked up over the hood of a Pontiac Parisienne. You know, had my glasses knocked off. They flew out onto the street and got ran over. Ended up, I had a pair of side cutters hanging out of my back pocket because I was walking to work at the wire factory. This is back when I worked at Central Wire in the mid-'80s. The side cutters actually carved a big gouge out of my hip. I tore my pants and carved a big gouge out of my hip when I went over the fender of the car. Yeah, I got punched in the head one time and knocked clear out to the center line in the center of the street by a guy I met coming the other way. Luckily, there was no traffic at the time or I would have been run over. Would have been knocked right out into the path of a car and run over. And yeah, so that's why I am the way I am anyway. That's why I'm always expecting trouble and watching for trouble. The police were really also at me all the time. They were always, they used to haul me out of cars and beat me up and everything. And I used to run them when I could. I knew the back roads around Perth really well, and most of the cops didn't. What they do with the OPP around here, most of them aren't local boys. Most of them come from other places. But this is considered a shithole. This area is kind of considered a shithole. They call this the armpit of Ontario. And so when a young cop starts out, at least back then, I don't know if this is still the case, but they make them go to the places nobody else wants to go to. So they either send them up north to fight the Indians, or they send them here to the armpit of Ontario to fight the hillbillies, you know. And yeah, that's about it anyway. So most of them, they know the main roads, at least back then, but they didn't know the back roads. And I could handle those old cars, those old 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s cars. I could make those cars do things. You'd be amazed if you could see me driving back in those days, especially when I was running from the cops. You know, I'd be going around corners going from one dirt road onto another dirt road sideways. There were hills, you know. I'd disappear into a low place there, and the cop wouldn't even be coming up the hill yet that I'd just come down. And I'd go sideways around the corner and down another side road, and the cop would just fly past, you know, and stuff. That's the sort of thing I used to do. I'd pull into a driveway late at night if they were chasing me, and I'd turn off all my lights. I'd get ahead of them and get around a bend or something where they couldn't see me. I'd pull into somebody's yard, and I would literally pull into their driveway doing 35 or 40 mile per hour. And I would turn out all my lights and sit there, and I'd watch the cop go flying past me and stuff, because they wouldn't even charge me. They'd just pull me out of the car, beat me up, and put me back in the car. And there were times I was badly hurt. There were times I took beatings where I was pissing blood the next day and everything else, you know, because they had punched the crap out of me. So yeah, it wasn't good anyway. There was one time I had a cop haul me out of the car and beat me up. He didn't beat me up real bad that time. He just roughed me up. And then he threw me back into the car and he ordered me to follow him. And he started going across town, going towards out of town. I followed him for a couple of blocks, and then I turned onto a side street, and I abandoned my car. And I went home, and every time I would see a set of headlights, this was at night, I'd hide behind a bush or whatever. I didn't know what was going on. I figured he might be leading me out of town so he could murder me. And so I wasn't going to follow him out of town, So, I mean, that's why I got to be the way I am anyway, when it comes to always expecting trouble and always kind of, you probably notice sometimes I probably seem a little paranoid sometimes, but that's the reason for it anyway. These things never really leave you. And this is a rough area where I am, where I grew up, and where I am still. It is a rough area. Smiths Falls is known. Well, when I was a kid, it was called Little Chicago. When I was a kid and a young man, Perth has a better reputation than Smiths Falls, but it doesn't really deserve it. They've just done a better job of hiding their sins. That's all in Perth. Smiths Falls has been more honest about what kind of a place it is. But I mean, in Ontario, if people hear the name Smiths Falls and they say, "Oh shit, really?" Oh boy, they just assume you're a tough person if you're from here, and they're not entirely wrong to assume that, because most people from Smiths Falls are pretty tough. You don't last very long around here if you're not. But anyway, but at the same time, I never actively wanted trouble. I was not anxious to fight with people or anything, and but there were times when I had no choice, and it wasn't a good situation anyway. But anyway, I'm an old man now. I'm 56 years old, which I know doesn't seem old to anybody in their 70s or 80s listening to this, but I'm old for my age too, I mean, people age differently, and when you've lived the life I've lived, you're going to age probably more than most, and so I'm kind of an old man now anyway. I can't be bothered with bullshit and drama and all the rest of it. And if somebody comes after me looking to fight with me, I'm more inclined just to hit them in the face with some dog repellent and run away than I am to have to fight with them. Especially when I know my odds of winning aren't very good. Anyway, I'm gonna start putting stuff away here. And I'm boiling my water now for my hot water bag so Rocky and I can be nice and toasty and warm in our bed tonight. I do love going to my bed and being all toasty and warm with the hot water bags. It'd be a real ordeal being in that bed at night at this time of the year without them, because it is actually very, very, got to put my punch away. I was using that on my tarps. I had to make some adjustments to the tarp that I put over the tent, the two tarps I put over the tent before. But yeah, so anyway, the bottom line is, that's the reason, plus my time that I spent in the reformatory in 1983. I was in jail, basically. And I tell that story in another video. I was labeled incorrigible by a social worker. My stepmother pulled a knife on me because I was going to Mass, and she didn't like Catholic people. And I went to jail because of that. But anyway, I do tell that story in some other videos on the channel. I don't really want to get into it now, but when you're in a place like that too, you learn very quickly to watch your back. And so I have a lot of experience with people, and a lot of it isn't good. I actually have trouble being too physically close to people, like hugging and whatnot. I have trouble with that because for me, most of my physical contact I've had with other people has been negative. Usually if somebody else is touching me or I'm touching them, it's in a negative context. I'm being beaten up, or I'm beating somebody up, or I'm being taken to jail by a cop or whatever, because I get into a fight on the street with somebody and get into a fight with a police officer's son after he threatened me or whatever it is, and then I got the cop thumping me around the parking lot and screaming in my face because I smashed his son's head in with when I opened the door into his face when I put him out of the building or whatever. So I mean that's the sort of thing that so for me, most of my contact with other people has been most of my physical contact with other people has been negative. So like I say, I find that I'm not really a big hugger or anything. I find it really awkward to hug. I have to kind of work myself up to it. And but one thing about it, if I do hug you, it's because I really want to, because I really have to work to bring myself to the point where I can do it. So if I give you a hug, it's because I think an awful lot of you anyway. But that's it for now. I have to get going. Going to put this away, and I'm going to head back down to Camp Crazy. It's a well-earned name. It is for Camp Crazy is a good name for the place. Anyway, we'll see you later.